All right, we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rych. We have a special guest on tonight. I'm going to do my best here. Gokhan Cukurova.
Very, very good, David.
Thank you
Very
very
good.
much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be
You
here.
and I connected via Anna Schiefelbein, who's kind of like the behind the scenes here at the Illinois Green Party series and does a lot for the Green Party in Illinois. You're out of Medinah, Illinois, right?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, well,
Yes and no.
why don't we? Okay, go ahead with that. We'll start
Um,
there.
I live in unincorporated part of Itasca,
Oh, okay,
which is adjacent to Medina. So our school district and our park district is Medina Park District
gotcha.
and school district. Yeah.
But you're in an unincorporated area.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you're a recent member of the Green Party. You just signed up like a couple weeks ago. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you're really hitting the ground running here. You're running for not necessarily under the Green Party flag because it's a local office, and as you pointed out before the show, most of those are nonpartisan. You just sort of run. Um,
Correct.
but you're running for the park district manager
That is
of
correct.
Medina. Well, why don't you start off by telling us how you got involved in the Green Party, what attracted you to it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Um, I've been very familiar with the uh, politics, philosophy, ideology of the Green Party since Ralph Nader ran for president. Um, and as we all know, the two-party system is only getting us in deeper mud. And uh, what Green Party stands for has always been more aligned with my own views in terms of uh, election justice, social justice, environmental justice, you name it. So we got hooked with Anna, and here I am.
And here we are on the show. Very
Right.
cool. Okay, yeah, it's one of those things too, like because a lot of people don't know that the Green Party even exists. They tend to remember Ralph Nader's name at least. He
Hmm.
kind of made a big splash, and he was popular before that as a consumer rights advocate and that kind of
Correct.
stuff.
Correct.
I think he's the one who coined the phrase that fettuccine alfredo is a heart attack on a plate or something like that. But
Correct.
um, and
Believe it or not, believe it or not, I am originally Turkish. I'm a Turkish American, and I moved here after college.
to the
Ralph
states.
Nader, correct. Ralph Nader, correct me if I'm wrong. He ran his first run was 1996, and he had more media coverage in Turkey than he had in 2000 in the United States.
Holy cats. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
interesting because the Green Party is the only party in America that I know of that is actually international. There are Green Party factions, if you will, in 72 countries. So Turkey's one of them.
I don't believe so.
Okay, he just happened to get media coverage for whatever reasons.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct, correct.
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, there's Canada, and it's a much higher profile and more present has a greater presence in the other countries than it does in America. People, like I said, Americans, they're just obsessed with the duopoly, with the Democrat Republican, and they can't see past it. I ran for a local office a couple years ago for the Green Party, and I went to the clerk's office to fill out the forms, and it said party affiliation, and I said Green Party, and the guy who worked at the office was like, "There's no such thing as a Green Party." I'm like, okay, I'm like, there is. I'm like, have you heard of Ralph Nader? That kind of thing. Yeah, so we definitely have an uphill battle going for us. So it's good to have good, genuine people like yourself joining us. So thank you for that. And okay, let's talk about the why you chose this particular office to run for. Because I know before the show you were talking about a great many things that were
Hmm.
disconcerting for sure. Needed
Correct.
some urgency, some attention, and sounds quite familiar for a lot of different areas and offices. And I'll just sort of chime in on that as you go. So go ahead. Why the Park District office?
Really, honestly, I didn't even want to run. I have, yeah, every free moment I have, I have something to fix around the house, or I have some activity that I would love to do with my children.
Sure.
But I felt the need that somebody had to step up to the plate, and uh, I moved to where I live now in 2015, and because we had only one child and he was not even 2 years old, we didn't have to worry about too much about the schools. We did our research. Schools were great, but we immediately started taking our kid to the parks and enjoy and discover and whatnot. And I realized uh, things could have been better maintained. And I brought a few concerns, and I emailed and called the park district. And for about 5 years, I received no communication, zero.
That's
Uh,
really
yes,
upsetting.
that is
Like I
very,
said before, like not even a no, like nothing.
yeah,
you know.
frustrating. And
Yeah.
then I ended up going to the park district meetings, and I told everybody to their face, "You made me come here."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I uh, brought up all the issues. I tried to communicate with the uh, park administration, and immediately, right at the very first meeting, I told in front of the commissioners that he should be fired.
Wow.
Enjoying very nice pension and six-figure salary on the taxpayer's back, the job is uh, farthest thing from the satisfying level.
Right.
And also, I started coaching uh, soccer for the park district, and I noticed our gear was very beat up. I ended up buying my own stuff from Amazon and then using. They started feeling the heat and they started updating, which was kind of good to see. But it shouldn't have been that way,
Right.
you know. And also realized some of our neighborhood kids attending neighboring park district programs, even though some of them are offered by Medina Park District. So these are my concerns, and I don't believe the commissioners should be micromanaging the day-to-day operations,
Sure.
but they should be able to carry a vision before they can actually become a commissioner, and then try to implement that vision and then push that vision. But what I see is a backseat approach. Sit in the back, check the books, look at the expenses and income, and if they are balanced, okay, do whatever you want to do. I don't believe that should be the case. I think our children and our taxpayer deserve better.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I mean, you get paid to do a job. You should do it. I mean, that's the most fundamental way of looking at it. But I mean, I know a lot of local officials, even county and state level, that they just get into the office and there's day to day stuff that they do, and they don't really do much past that. They just, like you said, they keep the books, they do the scheduling, blah blah blah, take complaints maybe. Um, I actually reside in Galesburg, Illinois, and the mayor there, Peter Schwartzman, is a Green Party member, and he's a friend of mine. He's also a PhD in environmental sciences and a professor at Knox College there. And he got in; he's a Green Party member again. And I moved down there to help him turn the town green, and he's killing it. He's doing a ton of stuff.
Great. Not
From my
surprised.
understanding, yeah, exactly. And from my understanding, though, like the guy before him, I don't remember his name, the mayor before him, like did how you're describing this guy, your guy, just kind of skimmed by. And Galesburg needs a lot of help because its economy got hit really bad about 20 years ago. It's a great city, don't get me wrong, but like I guess the guy didn't do anything. So and that's just really sad because they these local officials they do get paid a pretty penny. They have a nice pension. It's a government job, so it has a lot of worth to it. You'd hope, and you usually as a politician you run on platforms, you run on ideas, a vision for what you see your specific office. If you get elected, I'll do X, Y, and Z. That's
Hmm.
that's the phrasing. Um, So you expect them to have vision going in and to execute that vision to the extent that they can. Now, there's always
Mhm.
obstacles in politics. I get that, but to sit around and do nothing, that's just unacceptable.
Also, I have to put some blame on the residents too.
Okay.
Last 3 years, I've been going to almost every single meeting. There are a few that I had to miss because of work. A lot of times, I actually arrive at meetings 15 minutes or so after the meeting started with my, dirty, greasy work jacket and whatnot. But almost, I'll say 99% of those meetings, I was one of the two or max three residents.
It's true. It's true.
So as a resident, we are responsible from this too. Because
There's no
if
doubt
there were
about
15, 20 people every meeting pushing for
right.
change would come.
I agree. Democracy is, a two-way street here. It's, participation from the populace to the government itself, and then vice versa. So
Right.
you're right, and I've been to a couple of local township halls and town hall meetings and stuff like that, and there's like nobody there. There was a big to do in Mundelein, Illinois, over Thornton's gas station being put up, and it was a huge issue, and a ton of people showed up, and the board still voted against the people who showed up, which is very unfortunate. And they're probably not one of them is going to get reelected because of that. It was a huge deal. Like it was crazy. 600 people
Mhm.
signature. They just dismissed it.
Mhm.
That's also not how a democracy is supposed to work. So, anyway, but you're right. Yeah, people need to participate. I think most people. I think it's easy to say without polls or studies or anything that most people don't care. Not enough people care about local politics. They really think that we're obsessed with the presidential elections, and the presidency doesn't really have that much power compared to Congress. Congress has, on a federal
Correct.
level, Congress has just about all the power. They collect the taxes and they allocate them. That's a huge part of it. Just the money. I mean, the president has some power, but he's not a king. The founding fathers made sure of
Mhm.
that. Okay, they can't just wave a scepter and make things happen. Um, um, but when you start going down, then state level is even a little less attended to than county and then local, and then you're almost like at
Mhm.
nothing. So which is too bad because I think the local offices are the ones that you're going to find in your day to day life have the most amount of impact. Obviously, the federal
Correct.
does too, but it's more on it's on such a grand, the military. I mean, how many times do you like go witness the military in your town? Not very often,
Mhm.
if ever. I mean, it's there, and I'm glad it's there. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, the roads, the schools, the busing, the transportation. I mean, just the lights on the street and the
Everything,
businesses, the
everything.
zoning, and good.
Recently, uh, Medina is a uh, different animal. Medina doesn't have a police department, fire department, or a
Oh,
mayor. It's all unincorporated.
oh, okay.
And recently, uh, I don't know if you caught this on Daily Herald and some news. We were on the news last a few months, quite a few times. Itasca sends their team to, don't quote me on this, but to Las Vegas for a developer convention. And some companies from Dallas, Texas come in. They want to build huge warehouses. And Medina is in prime location, close to Highway
Oh,
390, 290, rail, you name it, and O'Hare. So a company comes in and starts mailing letters to homeowners. They want to buy 140 some homes and kick people out and then build warehouses. For that, a good friend of mine was one of the organizers, and we really stood up. And at after 4 or 5 months of fighting, organizing, and putting pressure and resisting, the company said, no, I'm no longer interested.
Good. That's great.
Yeah. So when it comes to some hardcore issues that's going to actually be life changing, people do come together and rise up. But like I said, for uh, regular board meetings, we need more people. And I'm knocking on doors. I'm knocking on doors.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about the campaigning part of it all. You are knocking on doors because that's a like I said, the mayor Peter Schwartzman from Galesburg, he did that too, and he said that he thinks that really made all the difference. It's just
Absolutely. Oh
like
my
the
God. Yeah.
proximity of
Hmm.
you to the people, that kind of thing, really gets to people in a good way.
I will tell you this. If what I do did make a difference or not, we'll see that on April 5th.
Okay,
April 4th is the date of the election. And but what I try to do, knock on the doors for the park district. You only need 25 signatures. That's all for your
that's good.
petitions.
That's nice.
And but I had uh, many times over, only because I wanted to knock on more doors, introduce myself. I already have the disadvantage of having a tough name and last name to remember,
Right, right.
right?
That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah,
You know,
but it stands
uh,
out on a ballot, doesn't it? You're like, oh, I know that
I hope
guy.
so. I hope so. But you know, uh, but when I knock on doors, I don't tell people, "Hey, I'm running. Can you sign my petition?" I ask them what they like and what they don't like about the parks, and if there are any concerns and whatnot. And sometimes you go to homes where there are weird flags hanging in front of the house,
MAGA
and
flags and don't tread on me
uh,
and
you know,
Trump won.
uh, I honestly don't judge people for their flags and whatnot. I still go knock on the door and see what they got to say. I introduce myself and let them tell me what they got to tell me. And then if they ask me a question, I go from there. So instead of me, hey, you vote for me, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna no, because even if I am to win out of 5 or 6 candidates, I will still be one vote on a board of 5.
Right.
So
Sure.
it won't, you know, uh, hopefully we'll work to build a coalition so to bring change to the park district. But at least, you know, I will have a closer look on things and the contracts and pretty much anything, at least as best as I can. I'll give you a very quick example that actually surprised me. Uh, Last summer, we redid our garage floor. It was old concrete, broken, and it was not leveled well, whatnot. 29 foot by 21 foot. I paid less than 8 grand for that. Break the old concrete, haul it away, pay for the inspection and the permit and whatnot, and then new concrete. I received an email because I keep bombarding the park district with questions and FOIA requests and whatnot. And there is one particular park has only 2 benches. One is placed awkwardly, and the whole playground has one bench. And I've been asking, please put more benches there. Grandmas take their grandkids and whatever. When kids are playing,
Yeah.
people have a place to sit. And I am presented with a quote. We're talking about regular park bench, okay? The concrete under 2 benches, okay? No breaking old concrete. We're gonna dig a few inches deep as big as a bench, put 4 inches or 5 inches of concrete, presented $3,100. So these kind of things, if I'm on the board, I'll be like questioning the heck out of this kind of stuff. And I asked the park executive director, spend so much money on something. I say, how many companies did you bring in, for giving you a quote? The answer I get is, well, if the expense is below $20,000, we don't have to have multiple bidding or multiple quotes. I'm like, maybe you don't have to by the
Right.
code or by law. It's common sense.
It's just good
I
math.
mean, I I I put on a new window around my house, right? I'll bring at least 3 companies. I know for sure the cheapest quote will not always be the best,
That is true.
but at
That's true.
least we must do our due diligence because I told them, you're spending my money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
So,
see that's exactly what I was talking about, like with the whole just get by sort of thing. Is like, oh, we don't have to, so we're not going to. That's I mean that's 3 grand. I can envision like how much concrete it would need. I mean I'm certified in horticulture and like a landscaping sort of thing, and I took a landscape design thing, and we laid concrete a much greater area than what you're describing with like a handful of concrete bags. Like I mean, I could probably do your benches for a couple $100. That might be a little too low, but it's definitely not three
mhm,
grand.
mhm.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, you got to watch how these officials get these contracts because sometimes they it could be an under the table sort of thing. It could be somebody they know, which is not okay. That's cronyism or despotism, that kind of thing. So yeah, wow, that's a 3 grand. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to put this out. Um, you know, I won't accuse anybody
Right. Of
with
malfeasance.
wrongdoing
Right.
unless I really see something. But
Right.
I think what it is that, like you said, if I don't have to do it, I won't. I won't do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair,
Right.
and that's why I am here. And like I said earlier, I did not want to run for anything, but I feel the urge that I have to do it.
Yeah.
I have to do it. Yeah,
That's good. That's good. I mean, you're compelled to do it, and like I said before the show, it's admirable that you're putting yourself, attempting to put yourself in a position that, you don't really want to, as on a personal level, but you feel as though that you would be beneficial. It's not about your own personal benefits; it's about your integrity and dignity, and that's very cool. All politics should be like that, but nowadays it's just really about money and power.
right,
You know. Okay, so that's very cool, and I really do wish you the best. And April 4th is the election.
correct.
Isn't that the day Martin Luther King Jr. was shot? I think it was.
I think so.
I think I'm
Maybe.
thinking of the U2 song Pride. Tuesday morning, April 4th. Shot rings down in the Memphis sky. Anyway, so hopefully he'll be shining down upon you because you sound like you're in line with his moral character as well. Doing things for the right reasons instead of just for your own selfish gain.
He's
Um,
one of my heroes, that's for sure.
he's absolutely 100%.
Hmm.
Um, we can, point being is that we could have you on before, get closer to the election day and that kind of thing, and spread the word around your area that you're going to be on
Appreciate
the
it.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. So let's talk about politics in a more grandiose sense. Okay, so we're stuck in this country with two-party system. The system is not two parties. It can be but there are a multitude of different parties. You can see the Constitution Party, the Libertarian Party. Libertarians are getting some momentum too, and then of course the Green Party. And there's a bunch of there's like the Family Labor Party or something like. There's a whole bunch of like small parties.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
Green Party and the Libertarian Party are no doubt the two largest third parties, and the ones you hear about the most amongst all the other parties outside of Democrat and Republican. There's a great amount of effort made by the Republicans and Democrats, respectively, to Libertarians and Green Party candidates to suppress them, to try to get them off, not on a ballot, to get them kicked off ballots. To like for example, here in Illinois in the 2000 election, I was actually a Libertarian at the time, and I was running for um, uh, District 10 representative for the Libertarian Party, and it was right at the beginning of COVID, so some things had to change. Like before COVID, without the pandemic, I would had to have gotten like 12,000 signatures to get on the ballot. So it was absolutely insanity. Okay, and because it had to be like a written down, like it had to be like in person. The person had to write their name down. You couldn't do it electronically or digitally or anything like that. So that's a huge challenge. You got to go out there, and I'm not a canvasser. I don't like that. But
You can hire me.
exactly, you and Peter Schwartzman, because he loved going door to door. I'm like, hey, good on you, man. So
When the weather was nice, I
right,
was tagging my 2 kids on bicycles, knocking on doors, and I did most of my petitions with my children.
that's great. Oh, you showed
Yeah.
that's a nice touch. Everybody likes kids. And that's, by the way, that's another cool thing about what you're doing too, is this concerns kids, which I love. I was thinking while you were talking about that, growing up, parks were an invaluable part of my childhood. Like I think most kids' childhood. I mean, what do? You go to the park until you get into high school and you become, other things or whatever else. But sometimes even then, you go there and do things you probably shouldn't. But parks are a very, very important part of, I think, of communities for sure. Anyway, so the Green in 2020, the Green Party of Illinois and the Libertarian Party of Illinois actually sued the state because the government put all these restrictions on people just socializing because of the pandemic. They're like, we can't go out. So you won't even let us go outside, to get the signatures. So they actually won. And the judge said, okay, you can get 10%, so you only need 1,200 signatures, which was I couldn't. I think I got like 130, including digital, like over the internet. Like we were allowed to do that, and like nobody bit. So it was very frustrating. And so this is I'm trying to kind of segue. Like Anna said before the show, I talk way too much. Um, into ranked choice voting and ballot access for third party members. I'm assuming you're aware of that. You talked a little bit about ranked choice voting. If you want to go ahead and talk about that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah. We can't really talk about a healthy democracy if the playing field is so uneven.
Right.
I mean, we're looking at candidates on the big level, national level, state level, can bring in any amount of money, outside money, corporate money. And then you have to knock on so many doors that they don't have to. 25,000 signatures you're going to need if you want to run for Illinois governor as an independent or a third party versus a recognized party, Democrat or Republican. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, 3250 is the number they have to have.
It's pretty low, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it is not equal. That means there is no democracy to talk about. In terms of ranked choice, it would make our democracy much more stronger. And I believe it should be the law of the land, even at the presidential level.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like you said before the show, it should be absolutely every single election.
And I believe you said you ran as a libertarian.
Yeah,
Libertarian crowd has a little bit more cash.
that's
So
true.
I noticed that they did bring they did gain a little bit more traction last couple of years.
Yeah.
But again, I will support with all my heart if we have federally funded elections and paper ballot all the time.
Oh, and paper. Okay, so let's talk. Well, that's interesting. Let's talk about electronic voting. Um, you don't have problems with the electronic voting?
I know how much or how vulnerable it can be. Paper ballot is tangible.
Right.
So if there is any question, you can go back and recount. It would reduce, or if not eliminate, if it would reduce the doubt on elections significantly. That's my belief. I'm not saying we should eliminate computers completely. No, but paper ballot must be cast and kept at certain months, if not years.
Right.
So have a
Yeah. So like
documentation.
maybe a hybrid system of like maybe you vote both ways in the booth. You like you're like or like somehow it prints up on a piece of paper or something like that, and you can verify it. Um,
Something tangible is necessary. That's my opinion.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. No, a lot of people agree with you. There's no doubt. It's very controversial. Obviously, with the last presidential election, holy cats,
Oh man.
he still thinks he won. So what a lunatic. It's laughable. He's extremely dangerous, but it's comical at the same time. But
Speaking of that, I have a friend at work, uh, kind of repeats that claim. And as much as I find Democratic candidate in 2016 as a despicable person, I don't want to name her. Um, but when my friend just tried to poke me with that claim for 2016, I say no, 2016, not 2020. 2016 was stolen.
right, that's funny.
But in a way, it was. I, if I may,
You
I
may.
really believe when you have electoral college, you can't speak of a healthy, strong democracy. People, I mean, maybe 200 years ago, it maybe it made sense to some people, maybe, okay, but this day and age, people, a candidate who has less vote winning an election is laughable.
Yes. Yes, it is. And it's happened twice. Wait, what are we?
2000 and 2016.
So twice in my lifetime, and I think only twice outside of that in the history of the nation, maybe three times. So maybe either four or five times altogether. It happens very infrequently, but it shouldn't happen ever. I
Ever.
agree. The
Exactly.
electoral college, I think, was some sort of attempt on their part to create a fairer proportionality between areas and national areas or states that have a lot lesser population than other states. And so, like,
Correct.
California is not like just whipping the crap out of Rhode Island every election. But I don't think it's a true measure of that proportionality. I think states having protections against federal regulations and decisions has a greater proportionality and protection than a democracy is about the majority opinion of things. That's
Hmm.
what it is. I
Hmm.
mean, some people even think that that's mob rule and it's not even a great system. Okay, well, we can talk about that later. I see their point, but I think it's more about each person's voice counting somewhat. But at the end of the day, if the majority wants it in a certain way, I'm telling you, how else are you going to do it? I don't know. But
Hmm.
anyway, so the electoral college takes that out, and that's where I think people like, well, you won the popular vote by like 3 million votes, man. I mean, Hillary Clinton, right? No, you're right. I mean, you didn't say her name. I'll say her name. I could take her or leave her, to be honest with you, but I take her over Trump any day. And she won by like millions of votes and still lost the election. Are you out of your mind? That's crazy. That's how does that make any mathematical sense at all? Yeah, so that's got to go. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, we don't talk a lot about like the actual
But,
machinations
but,
of voting.
but
What's up?
it also shows the disconnect and vulnerability of Democratic Party from the real issues of the nation,
Mm.
because I remember criticizing, gave some credit where it was due, but criticized Obama more often than not. And he said she was the best and the most prepared and blah blah blah, and then yet lost to a schmuck.
Yes,
I mean, that
exactly.
should have been not even a question.
Right. Right. Well, they all
But
thought
also,
she was a runaway.
she was a very weak candidate too. So
A lot of people wanted like really blame the Democratic Party on the national level for choosing her as a candidate in the first place. Um, you know, the both times that she ran, she lost, and the second time, everybody's like, "Why are you picking her again? She lost last time. She can't do it." Yeah, I don't know. And like you're saying too, like a lot of the blame goes back on the American people, the voters themselves. I still scratch my head as to why so many people like Trump. I'm like, how are you not seeing how awful he is? I don't get it. Like, I really don't understand how you're not seeing this guy. Just when he made fun of the disabled reporter, do you remember that?
yeah,
You didn't see
uh,
that? Like, I mean, I'm like, well,
mhm.
how is that not like a deal breaker? That's insane. And how many,
Or
like all
making
these right
fun of
wingers are like super pro military, and like how many times has he degraded and made fun of like
John McCain.
POWs and MIAs and the military? It's like he's terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think we could talk till next Monday if you were to talk about this failure of this nation. Unfortunately, it is. I mean, some of my friends voted for him, unfortunately, but I love him to death. But some of them did that because of their views on abortion. Some of them did for their views on Second Amendment, not because they liked him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you see one party as an absolute enemy of your some value that you keep dearly, right or wrong, agree, disagree. I'm not judging that, but I mean, it was unfortunate event for the country.
Yeah, it was. Let's hope to God that it doesn't happen again. Because I mean, he's announced his campaign. Hopefully, by that time, he'll be in jail, but we'll see. Because everybody deserves to go to anyway. Um, okay, so like speaking of issues and stuff like that, I know Anna wanted to ask you about or have that asked to you on air. Like, what are some of the bigger issues for you? Like, just as somebody involved in politics, conscious, aware of political happenings. Like, what's big on your mind?
Money in politics.
Money in politics? Okay, yeah.
Money in politics. We don't fix that. We don't fix anything in this country when a ninth grader in China scores much better in math than a college graduate in United States.
It's unbelievable.
We have a big problem when teachers have two, three jobs and almost poverty level salaries. Not talking about every teacher, of course, but
Sure.
shrinking education budget when we spend more and more on military
Oh,
expansion.
that's
we
just
have we have a problem. I mean, we have enough firepower to eliminate life in this planet plus a few more. And what are we afraid of?
right.
You know, I support every scientific uh, achievement. Yes, we should do better, but we should prioritize. I wouldn't want to trust other governments if we were to cut down on military budget, whatever. But we already have more than enough firepower. I am not afraid of anybody, but I'm afraid of my kid's teacher driving Uber after school. When we have unlimited amount of money allowed in politics, that means we're not learning anything from history. Because I don't believe United States will go down by another army invading.
Yeah,
We're
probably.
doing it to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, it'll
Just like
probably be
the
the. Go ahead, sorry.
Ottomans did it, Romans did it, Ottomans did it, British did it, Soviets did it, you know. So we're just shooting ourselves on the foot by giving everything to military industrial complex, and everything else is suffering. We could do so much more, so much better.
Yeah, and there's the so military ties into the whole Green Party agenda quite specifically and explicitly because the number one singular entity on the planet that is the greatest polluter is the American military. And if you with its all of its bomb, rehearsals and tank, they're out there. The military personnel all over the country right now is shooting guns right now and bomb detonating bombs so they're to practice for war. They're still doing nuclear bomb tests and stuff like that, and that's crazy. Yeah, they just bought like 15 B-52 bombers, and they're like over $1 billion a piece.
Yeah, 700
15.
million. Yeah, 700 million apiece. Yeah.
Holy cats! You could take two of those away. You could probably solve a lot of the educational problems. You know, you, know, you probably
Here,
don't need any.
here's how I look. I am originally Turkish,
Mhm.
and it's known as a fighter nation. Okay, good fighters all the way from Mongolia, where they
Yes, that
came
is true.
from.
Yeah, it has that legacy. Yeah.
But I what I'm trying to say is that I believe in uh, strong military being, you know, kind of deterrent, because I don't believe that in my lifetime the world will come to their senses and say, "Hey, we are all brothers and sisters. Let's hug." That's not gonna happen. So let's not kid ourselves. But what I'm trying to say is that we already have more than we need to deter anybody out there. But when our children fall behind in science, in math, in art, whatever, they are not sleeping. Corruption sets in. Who is gonna create the next generation technology to take you to next level? I'm not talking about militarily,
No, just yeah,
in
no,
anything.
right.
So everything, education and health. That's gotta be the foundation of this society, not more bombs.
That's a really interesting point. I like that. That they're taking, they're funneling so much money into the military and not enough into education, of which they're kind of screwing themselves because the people that are going to grow up with a shoddy education aren't going to be able to create the technologies that the loaded budget of the military needs in the future. So it's kind of like this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Or just technology outside of that, just the advancement of societies and so. And with climate change, and we should talk about the environment, of course. Climate change and all that. Technology is probably going to have to. You either shut all of it down, or you got to make some really good stuff out there that's going to help us. Because it's the industrial revolution that caused it. Do you have any thoughts out there about environmentalism, pollution, climate change? Is that an issue over in Turkey and I know Europe it's a big issue. Is that a thing elsewhere?
I mean, not in Turkey. Turkey has bigger problems with uh, dollar being uh, so much more powerful than last a few years, and Turkey being a country really work harder to pay that debt because everything is indexed to the dollar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like here, corruption is everywhere. Turkey is not an exception. Um, there is there is a guy who's been president for so many years who doesn't like to let go. If he lets go, he's gonna go and in an orange jumpsuit too, so he knows that.
Oh,
Uh, so, but unfortunately, I believe we missed a train on climate change because no matter how obvious what's happening to the planet is, power holders aren't moving.
right. Not fast enough.
My wife and I were expecting our second child when Native Americans went on a standoff in North Dakota,
Oh, yeah.
and I had to be there.
Nice.
I called a good friend of mine. I didn't want to drive that far by myself in a short trip, and a good photographer friend of mine and I hit the road, went to North Dakota to document and interview people over there. And I actually had like a 60-year-old big, large format camera with me, and I photographed the tribal leaders there too. And you see firsthand how important that water to the natives over there, even though that tar sand oil shouldn't be used anywhere. But they changed the route of the pipeline
Yep.
and already spilled more than 400,000 barrels. They said it was going to be safe. Technology is great. This is safest, and this and that. We knew they lied.
Yeah, there was a spill the other day.
Yeah. So,
Seriously, I mean, how many years
but
after the right?
unfortunately, uh, those who hold power, because we don't have a true representation in Washington, uh, those who hold power are very much in debt. They owe their seats to their donors, not to the people.
Right.
Until that changes, I don't see a significant uh, movement in the right direction.
Right.
And that's why I believe, since I don't think that's going to change quick, I think we missed a train, and we should still not give up hope and fight, but buckle up, it's coming.
It is coming. There's no doubt. It's
It is unfortunate because I'm 47 years old, David. Maybe I'll have 30, 40 more years if I'm lucky.
right.
I truly worry about the environment, political environment, natural environment my kids will endure.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
exactly right.
worried. Yeah.
The kind of world we're going to leave to the future generations. By the, we got a lot of scientists, and not from just what you just said, but that's also true. But as scientists already said that we passed the point of no return. Um, it's just a matter of like, how can we deal with it? Can we kick the can down the road a little bit further before it all just kind of go? Because the scientists are still pointing to the end of the century as like when it's gonna get really bad. I'll be gone by then. That doesn't excuse anything, but I mean, I won't have to suffer through it unless reincarnation is true and I decide to come back. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, even Biden said he's like, we can't stop it. We just need to learn how to kind of slow it down, do our part to make sure that we can survive and that kind of thing. And you might have to the end of the century see a very different type of human being, not
Um,
necessarily genetically, but just like people living on huts on stilts in rivers because everything's flooded over and stuff like that. And the highway system's probably going to be gone. So food supply
yeah.
arrangements and allocations, that's going to be extremely different. And like you said, it's coming. I think some really nasty stuff is coming.
I am very disappointed with his response to climate change.
Oh yeah,
Just going back into Paris Accord doesn't do anything. Just
no,
like driving a Ferrari doesn't make you a good driver. It makes you a Ferrari owner.
yeah,
And signing an accord doesn't do any good unless you take radical measures. I was at the a couple of weekends ago. I took my wife and I took our kids to Science and Industry Museum in Chicago,
oh yeah,
and we watched a show about global warming's real uh, results, not 30 years from now. What's happening now in
right.
different parts of the world, and I was glad that my kids were watching it, paying full attention, but I wish they never had to see it.
Yeah, no, it's horrifying. And I think as a parent that you would be extra horrified because you know that you're leaving this kind of world to your kids and definitely to your grandkids.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be progressively worse. That's really cool that they had that at the Museum of Science and Industry. Because there are things. I mean, there have water shortages in the southwest of this country right now.
Yeah.
Lakes and rivers are drying up because of the increase in temperature.
How
Wildfires are far
far
greater. So what's that?
how far can we go with wildfires and hurricanes becoming so much more frequent and much more powerful? And we're talking about emergency funds and FEMA and the help and everything. At some point, it's going to become so hard to help our own people. Printing money doesn't do any good. The money we borrow from China isn't going to be enough at some point. But unfortunately, just like the park district I am trying to challenge, we just still fail to see what's behind the curtain.
Right.
But the curtains were down, but we still refuse to look.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I wonder how much more. I remember like during the village board and mayoral election for the town Mundelein that I'm from. I know a bunch of the people who were running. Just trying to like sit down with them and talk to them. 'Cause I had radio shows at the time too, so I have them on the radio show and talk to them. I'm like, have you thought about like kind of including in your platform, like turning the town green because the industries are going that way anyway because they have to. Nobody thought it was even like a thing, to do that on a local level. And I don't know to what extent a park district would go green. I guess maybe gardens in the parks or something. I don't know. But is there any talk of that on the local level in your area?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to explore the opportunities to bring solar panels on the Park District Recreation Center. Our Park District has only one big building, that's it. And we could catch rainwater.
Beautiful.
I do that at home.
That's great. Rainwater's
I
awesome.
mean, exactly. I mean, there is what I always say at most meetings when I get frustrated with easy things being overlooked and whatnot. So if there is a will, there is a way. I
Yeah.
recently I brought up soccer nets being gone in a park, and the soccer field is maybe like 4 feet or so elevated from the playground. So if kids or anybody playing soccer scores, the ball goes down the hill. Kids have to go run down, catch the ball, bring it back up, and it's like $19 to $69 at Amazon. Okay.
Right.
And unfortunately, the board president tells me, I don't know what's going on with this park. So much vandalism. Well, then put cameras. If there is a will, there is a way. We don't live in a bad community. In everywhere, there will be one or two person or family that's very inconsiderate or doesn't mind vandalizing park property.
Right.
Catch them, make an example, ticket them, expose them, problem solved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just
But
hold people
there,
accountable. You don't have to not do something because it might somebody might do something bad to it. I mean that's always a risk. You know, um, that shouldn't be a variable in your considerations about things. You're right, and there's ways of sort of deterring that behavior.
I mean,
By
just because you think somebody's gonna damage it again, you let that neighborhood, that part of our neighborhood, go without a soccer net.
right,
That's just taking the easy route. Just ignore it, neglect it. But that's not what these people deserve.
right, no, exactly. Like you said, it could be $20. So buy a bunch. So buy $100 worth. That's 5 nets. If they get vandalized, just replace them.
Or put a camera and say, hey,
And put a camera.
smile, smile, you're on camera. I'll see
Exactly.
how many people are going to dare to damage the property that's paid by all of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have
So,
like what are they called? Neighborhood watch programs too, where people can kind of like hey, it's kind of take a look at people who live around the park. Hey, every hour or two, would you mind looking outside and see what's going on? You see anything weird, report it. Stuff like that. I mean, there's all sorts of options besides just
if
neglecting it.
if there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with
Yeah,
that. The human intellect can come up with a lot of solutions to things. That's what it
yeah,
does. That's what the human mind does. It solves
yeah.
things. If you let it, so otherwise it can ruin everything too. So we only got a couple minutes left here. You want to maybe plug? Do you have any Facebook page or anything like that people can go to? Or now you're
No,
it's pretty early. It's pretty early. Yeah, I get that.
it's pretty early. It's very small town, small race. My main thing is knock on every door possible, multiple times if I can, and introduce myself to people
That's great.
and see what they do, what they decide. I I trust that we will do well
Good. Good.
because just like word of mouth being the best advertisement,
Hmm.
face to face interaction, door to door. You gotta walk the walk and put those miles on your shoes. That's where and when people will remember, even though I have the disadvantage of having a tough name.
Gokhan
So,
Cukurova. It's actually a
yeah,
very cool name, and I'm wondering if it could work out in your favor. Like, just vote for the name. Put your check mark next to the name you can't pronounce on the ballot. Boom. That's how you should. That's how you should like market it. Like
uh,
instead of trying to get
we
them.
shall see.
But
Yeah,
Gokhan Chukarova, that doesn't hard. Once you like, I wouldn't have guessed the ch part at the beginning of the second word, but
yeah. There are two C's in Turkish alphabet.
oh, okay.
One of them has a dot below the C
Hmm.
that pronounces as CH sound in English.
I got you. Okay. Yeah,
So that's why.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool. Well, Gokhan Chukarova, thank you for coming on the show. It was a fabulous
I thank you.
conversation. Tip my hat to you, sir. You're doing all the right things, and I appreciate that. I applaud you. And let's get you back on here before the election date, April 4th, and see where you're at, because I think this is very exciting. It's good to have people like yourself running at local levels for sure.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I am your host, David Rych, from my bedroom, as you can see, actually from my bed. Um, that's the beauty of modern technology. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay tuned for next week. We got somebody special for you. Till then, be good, be green. And here's the awkward ending.